All right, so now we're going to start thinking about theta with values that are possibly greater than 90. And this is where our reference angle comes in. So for any triangle that I tried to make, if I tried to make a triangle with my initial arm and terminal arm, then I'd end up with an obtuse triangle. But I could always make a triangle coming down this way with the x-axis. So here's my reference angle. We'll call that theta prime. And in this right triangle, I know that this length is going to be x, this one is y, and my hypotenuse is the same as a radius that would trace out the circle, which is why I'm calling this r. So what I have is that sine of theta is going to be equivalent to sine of my reference theta, and that's all going to be equivalent to so sine is going to be opposite over hypotenuse, y over r. Notice for this specific theta, my value is going to end up being negative. Sorry, my value will be positive because y is positive and r is positive. But when I think about cosine of theta, I can find the equivalent cosine of my reference angle. That's going to be equal to x over r, adjacent over hypotenuse. But in this case, it'll be negative if I'm in quadrant 2 because the x value will be negative. My third trig ratio is tan. So if I use my reference angle, I'm going to get opposite over adjacent. And now if I find the reciprocal of each of these, I get the last 3 to make a total of 6. So 1 over sine theta, we call the cosecant of theta, and that is the reciprocal r over y. The reciprocal of cosine, I call secant, and that's going to be r over x. The reciprocal of tangent, I call cotangent, and that's going to be x over y. So as I said, if my angle's in quadrant 2, then anytime I have an x value, it's going to be negative. So that's what we're looking at down here. So in quadrant 2, I know that my r value is always going to be positive because it's a radius, y is going to be positive, x is going to be negative. This implies that sine is going to be positive, cosine is going to be negative because remember cosine is going to be x over r, and tangent will be negative. Quadrant 1, everything is positive. Quadrant 3, your x values are negative and your y values are negative. Therefore, sine is going to be negative. Sine is less than 0. Cosine will also be negative, but your tangent is going to be positive because negative divided by negative is positive. In quadrant 4, we have that x values are positive, y values are negative. So sine is negative, cosine is positive, tangent is negative. The way that the little mnemonic that we use is we look at what's positive. So all are positive here, sine is positive here, tangent is positive here. Let me move my sine to be over in quadrant 2. And then down in quadrant 4, I have that my cosine is positive. So generally we talk about the cast rule, and that is which trigonometric ratio is positive in that quadrant. Cosine, all, sine, tangent.